Man versus machine, or lady versus machine. Because let's put it this way. We play with the smallest bits of kit to the biggest bits of kit. And the more we play with them, the more complacent we get with them. Because we're used to the little quirks, the little noises they make. And this journey of complacency doesn't happen just like that. It creeps up on us. But it's also around the people we work with. Because we get complacent around the people. Because we all know what they're very, very good at. And not what they're good at. So that's what this is all about. This is my duty of care, ladies and gents. I'm going to talk about real life. What happened to me, my family, and my friends. And at any point during this presentation you think, this is a little bit too close to home, I need to catch my breath, I need to take the call, the email, then please do. I will not be offended. I'd rather you go out for 5 minutes just to catch your breath and come back than actually sit there and go, I want to go. So, if you're happy, I'm happy, we will. But to warm you up this morning, I thought, what's the best exercise to get people up and down? So you always offer a prize. Anyway, being where I live, I have to go around the world's biggest car park. It's known as the M25. And to pass time, I love listening to stories. And one of my favourite stories is War of the Worlds. And there is a beautiful part where Ogilvy, the astronomer, is talking to the journalist. And he says, well, the chances of anything happening or coming from Mars is 1,000,000 to 1. But you know what? They still turned up. It's a bit like winning prizes. It's a bit like accidents. The chances are 1,000,000 to 1, but people win them, people still have them. So, underneath a chair is a little label like this that says lucky. What I would like you to do is get up and have a look to see if you are lucky or not. And I've got a little prize for you if you are lucky. And by the way, when you've got it, would you like to remain standing? Don't worry, we've got a winner. First of all, my friend, what business are you? Because it's a good little bit of networking.
Yeah, Adam Forrest from the RNLI.
Right. So, anyway, are you always lucky, my friend?
I am this morning.
Now, if I was with some of your colleagues, they'd go, yeah, it's always him. Right, are you good at catching, no, actually thinking about it, you can collect these afterwards, because that wouldn't be good in a health and safety meeting that somebody's had it, a bag of jelly babies on their head. By the way, sit down, my friend, thank you very much. It's never us, is it? It's never us that wins the prizes. It's never us that has the accidents. Because let's put it this way, it's always somebody else in a different industry, different part of the country. It's never us. But as I say, there's always that chance, 1,000,000 to 1, that it is us. Now, I was watching 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's not a bad film. Our American cousins really do need to learn how to finish a film off properly. They never seem to get their ending right. But during the film, this gentleman called Howard said this, and he's right. You can't always convince people that safety is in their best interests, especially at work. Because let's put it this way, their focus is on the machinery and the delivery of the product to your customers. And if you know some people of a certain generation, health and safety, what's this old malarkey about? Didn't have it back in our day, it's just about common sense, young man. Health and safety is there to get us home every day in one piece. So how do you see the world? You see the world through your job titles, ladies and gents, because that's what you do most of the time you are awake. You're there to protect people, to make sure the company is producing and delivering the goods. But there's some other little things, like how we've been brought up, who we knock around with, where we come from. But there's some other little things as well. Who's left-handed here apart from me? Quite a good spread. Be proud to be left-handed, because do you know what? The world would be a happier place if the world was just left-handed. I was always picked on, because do you know what? I could reach in to get places that other people couldn't. And anyway, being left-handed, you get used to being called cack-handed. Left-handed people see the world completely and utterly different because we stand in a different way. But there's some other stuff, like rules. So I'd like a show of hands here. Who thinks rules are black and white? Thank you for your honesty. Who thinks they're grey? And who didn't put your hand up? Always find someone. My only advice is, you have to make a decision, because you can't sit on the fence forever, because you know what? You get splinters. So let me show you what I mean. Is this ball in play or out of play? So show of hands, who thinks it's in play? Thank you. Who thinks it's out of play? And who thinks it's the wrong sport? Thank you. But with the joys of video technology, let me show you. See if you change your mind. The first angle will maybe blur the lines a little bit. The second angle may clear it up for you. And we've finished there. So, I'm going to ask a show of hands game. Who thinks it's in play? Who thinks it's out of play? And who still thinks it's the wrong sport? Thank you. Any referee in the room? Well, normally you find one or two. Law 9 of association football starts off with the whole of the ball must cross the line. This ball is in play by millimetres, because it's the hemisphere. People take it it's the bottom. But what I didn't tell you was, what I've just showed you is a cup semi-final. The team is losing 1-0, the guy's under pressure because they need to get the ball up the other end of the pitch. So you can understand why he's picked the ball up, because he can see grass. Now let me bring this into work. Safe systems of work and risk assessments. Who thinks they're black and white? Show of hands. Okay. Who thinks they're grey? And who wants to sit on the fence? Just remember, splinters. Ladies and gents, you're neither right or wrong, because do you know what? It comes down to perceptions. It comes down to how you see the world at that moment in time. Us English love to play a really mad sport. It's called cricket. Nobody actually knows the rules of the game, apart from you can go to it for 5 days, sleep part of it, you can become merry, but still know the result is going to be a draw. But during the game, they play a guy called a spinner who bowls the ball at some fantastic angles, and unless that ball's gone for a 4 or a 6, every ball is a wicket. Comes down to perceptions, ladies and gents, of how we see the world at that moment in time, of whether rules are black and white or grey. And then, when it does go wrong, we play the blame game. And let's put it this way, the best guy in the world who plays the blame game at the moment is a guy who's just lost the world championship with Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel. Car number 5. Because let's put it this way, he never hits anybody, does he? Everybody else hits him. So as I say, when things go wrong, we start playing a blame game because we've got to find a scapegoat. But as I say, it comes down to perceptions, how we see the world at that moment in time. Now, this is Bob, my goldfish. And he's got a beautiful sound from West Africa. And it goes a little bit like this, that you're going to finish off for me. Fish are the last to recognise what? What do you think fish are the last to recognise? No. No. I'll give you a bit of a clue. It's nothing to do with batter chips and salt and vinegar. What they in all day long, ladies and gents? Water. Bowen's close. Fish are the last to recognise water because they are in it all day long. And actually, when you go back to work and your people in your organisations are no different than Bob, because you're in the goldfish bowl, you're in the water. Stuff just merges into the background, it becomes part of the furniture. But then sometimes you need somebody to come in and give you a bit of a shake of outside the goldfish bowl to actually see that actually it's not what it should be. I worked in a team of 5. We covered 13 acres in a paper mill. Stuff just merges into the background. But as I say, we needed somebody to come in and give us a little bit of a shake to realise that actually something wasn't quite right. I can see a few people starting to draw this morning because obviously they've got up late and they've missed breakfast. Now, when I stay in England, this is known as a full English. When I go to Scotland, it's known as a... Never say full English up there. If I go to Northern Ireland, it's known as a... No, that's Southern Ireland. It's known as an Ulster fry. And if I go to Wales, it's just known as a... Yeah. Because our Welsh friends don't like to upset anybody. They like to include everybody. In your organisations, you are a bit like a fried breakfast because you all have your different cultures. For us, we live in the United Kingdom. Shouldn't we just call it a fry-up, a cooked breakfast? But we don't. We evolve different bits. We evolve our own cultures. As I say, you are no different in your organisation. We were. We was no different. I come from E-shift. Excellent shift. I'll let you work out what we called A, B, C and D. But the RCF plant, we should have had the same culture, but we don't. We evolve things differently. And these cultures drive your standards. Now, this is the New Zealand rugby team. They have been the best for the last 110 years, according to a lovely gentleman called James Kerr, who's wrote a beautiful book called Legacy. And he explains that since their first tour in 1905, when apparently they beat every European team going, they have been the best. So their standards are up there. We was known as the elite of the paper makers because nobody could match the quantity or quality that we was producing. Also, we had gone 5 years without a lost time incident, so not only are we the best paper makers, we're the safest paper makers. But as I say, we needed somebody to come in and give us a bit of a shake to realise where we were. So where's your cultures? Where's your standards? We're at Birmingham Airport, and Alan, is this your brother? Anyway, we've decided that we're going on holiday. So we've got the family in tow, and as we board the plane, the little hostess says, where are you can I see your ticket? So you give her the ticket. She goes, oh yes, it's down there. Some of us obviously go to one end, others go to the other. And just as we sit down, we look out the window and we see this gentleman. What would most people do? Most people would sit there, get this lovely device out, take a picture, and then tweet it, Facebook it, and send it to the rest of their friends to say, look at this plonker. Anyway, he's taken a little bit longer than normal, so you ring the bell, the little hostess comes along and says, yes, and you go, can I have all your miniatures, please, lovey? So you line up all your miniatures, he finishes the job, you go to the runway, you take off, and every now and again you nudge each other to tell each other that the engine is still attached. Good. Anyway, you do that for a few hours, on and off, between the pair of you, and then all of a sudden you land, and gentlemen, you do this beautiful thing of, I don't know what you was worried about, love, I knew we'd be all right. Let's go and party. And you think no more about it. Now bring this into work. Somebody is doing something a little bit iffy, and what does most people do? They will walk on by. Because when they have had the conversation of, excuse me, what you doing? This guy, in no uncertain terms, has told them to go and take the longest walk off the shortest of piers. So we don't have the conversations no more. And anyway, this guy's been in post about 15, 20 years, and what he doesn't know is not worth knowing. So people don't bother no more. What I encourage people to do is start having the conversations about how we see the world, about why do we do what we do. For anybody who's in the airspace industry will know that this is actually aluminium speed tape. It's not duct tape, as I keep getting told by the guys and girls on the shop floor. Because let's put it this way. Brian Clough was right, it only takes a second to score a goal. Actually, it only takes a second to have a conversation. And I don't mean, oi! I mean, sorry, have you noticed? Step down, this, that and the other. It only takes a second to save a life. So was I compliant? Yeah. I wore all my PPE. I was a process operator engineer, so not only did I break things, I fixed it as well. So I had locking off bits. And I did follow all the rules 99% of the time, because they are black and white. But there's always that little 1% where people bend them. We don't break rules, we bend them to get the job done. Because let's put it this way. My commitment was to a little baby like this. This is PM6 down in Kemsey Mill, Sittingbourne, Kent. She is an all-consuming beast because she runs 24/7. But as long as she's running 24/7, it's the happiest place on earth. Apart from when I come here today and realise that actually Bristol's the happiest place on earth. Looking at your smiley faces. And just like your organisations, as long as everything is going well, it's a happy ship. But machinery does what machinery does. It breaks down. And when it breaks down, people get frustrated. People start pointing fingers. People start shouting at each other. We even used to get phone calls of somebody screaming down the phone to us. Good morning to you as well. But as I say, most of our commitment, if not all of it, is to machinery to make sure the product goes out the door to our customers who are happy. Now, you're all too young to remember this. It's just that some of you have had harder paper rounds than others. And if you want to sing the tune, you're more than welcome to. It's not being videoed. But ladies and gents, potentially you are on this and you don't even know it. Your guys and girls are on it and they don't even know it. We were. We had a Beautiful bit of kit from Sweden. And tell the truth, she was a mare. Because every time we run her, she blocked. But between the 25 of us, we found our perfect solution, which was to have one guy upstairs in the switchgear room, isolating, and at least two of us downstairs, unblocking with airlines, arm bars, and the best tools in the world. We had perfected it that much, we could get a blockage done within 25 minutes. But all we was doing was going round and around in a vicious circle, becoming more and more blinkered. So where in your organisations are people going around in the vicious circle, becoming more and more blinkered? Because while it's spinning around, we are dodging bullets. And how long can you dodge a bullet for? A day? A week? A month? Or a year?
Mother's going, so we knew we had a blockage. So, like that up to the control room, so we've got a blockage, and they lock it off for us. It's remotely controlled. We all clear, started to dig out all the power.
There was a breakdown in communication between Paul's workmate and the control room. What happened next had disastrous consequences.
Started up. Felt the arm right, the initial reaction, like the arm upright, that's all I did. And then realising that the arm wasn't there at all. Really shocked, more than I was giving the air time that hurt. So I realised I'd gone through an artery, and I knew it was a matter of life and death.
With a severed artery, Paul was in danger of bleeding.
John, bless him, became Usain Bolt that day as he legged it down the basement towards the offices. And I followed. It was more of a stagger, but I followed him for about 30, 40 yards until these pair of hands grabbed hold of me and pushed me to the floor. It was Darren, my shift mate, and he said, "Bloody hell, Paul, what you done?" Because that's all he could see. And I didn't really say a lot apart from Darren, at which point he sunk to his knees, took off his jacket in the IVs, wrapped it round my stump, and then for the next hour and a half shoved his fist up my armpit and listened to me cleanse my soul. Because I'm not going home. I'm not going to see my wife and daughter anymore. Because my last view of life is going to be the lighting, the pipework, the machinery, and Darren. I even said to him, "Darren, please let them know I love them." And bless him, he just bent over, kissed me for it, and said, "You telling me a bugger, because I'm not doing it, you are getting home." And this bubble formed around us. It was punctured every now and again by the paramedics who do what they need to do. And while all that's going on around me, they got hold of Dave, the engineer, off the paper machine. Dave, being a typical engineer, came over with his big bag of spanners, dumped it down by the operator and said, "What's up? Could you reverse the screw for us?" So Dave did, inch by inch, until my arm decided to unattach itself and slide down the screw and land fully square in his lap. At which point I heard someone scream. I heard someone else shout out, "We've got it." And with all the drugs inside me, I'm starting to hallucinate that my arm is crawling on the floor to get me. Do not take drugs, they don't work. Anyway, they calm me back down, stick me in the back of an ambulance, Darren is still hanging on. My arm is now wrapped up in whatever down by my feet, and you're off to hospital. Or so you think, because we stop at the weighbridge. And the paramedic says, we've decided the air ambulance needs to come in. And it seemed like eternity, waiting for that distinctive boof, 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 to come in. And she landed in the car park. They transferred me across without Darren now, because there's not enough room for the pair of us, and they slide me in. Army's still hanging around by my feet. I have a headset on. The door slams shut, the rotor blades speed up, and you take off. The only trouble is you don't know where you're going, because you can hear the pilot via the headset talking about Maidstone, which is only a few miles away. But he's being told in no uncertain terms, you've got to get to East Grinstead. East Grinstead was around about 50 miles away. That 50 miles just took 12 minutes, and they shut down Gatwick to get me through. And we landed around about 10 o'clock in the morning. I always remember it as 10 o'clock because the Queen Victoria Hospital's got a clock tower. So as we landed, out my peripheral vision, I can tell the time. And as we've landed, the door flings open, my arm is given to a little nurse who wanders off to wherever, and I'm taken to the assessment room, where I'm now a baton in a relay race, because all that information the paramedics have got is being handed over to the medical team. It's organised chaos. And then the world stops. As this gentleman comes bounding in, introduces himself as Mr. Davison, the senior registrar for the hospital, and would you like your arm back, Paul? At which point you would all say, yeah. I actually said no, because once you've lost a limb, that's it. It don't grow back, you know, we're not crabs. Mr. Davison was not going to take no for an answer. And he repeated the question. Paul, do you want your arm back? This time I paused and I put myself in a win-win situation. And I just said, do whatever you have to. Because I realised if I woke up with a stump, I'm 27, and that's my life. As a 27-year-old onwards, I am going to be an amputee for the rest of it. But actually, if he does put it back on, yes, I've won the lottery. So Mr. Davison was quite happy that I'd said yes in a roundabout way, and off he went. The next thing I knew, I had this gentleman come up to me, he shoved a piece of paper underneath my nose and said, could you sign this, please, Paul? No. Well, this is your consent form. It's a legal document. It must have a signature. But I'm left-handed. At which point he went, oh, shit. And before I knew it, the pen he was holding was shoved in my right hand, and he's telling me to do an X and he would do the rest. I don't know how I did it, but I scribbled Paul. And before I knew it, I'm being wheeled down to the operating table where they started at 11 o'clock. And 16 hours later, at 4 o'clock in the morning on that Sunday, I had just made history, touch wood. Because I'm the first person and the only person in this country ever to have their arm put on above the elbow successfully. Not a great way to earn that Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame. And I spent the next month in hospital, being treated like a king, because I was Mr. Teo's, the operating surgeon's, special patient. But then again, no, I was treated like a 5-year-old, because everything that we take for granted as adults, I've had to learn all over again. So that was my making a little bit of history, but they was as well. And that's why I spent a month in hospital. But why did my accident happen? It was a convergence of circumstance. It was the perfect storm. Everything that we was taking for granted, and when I say we, I'm not talking about the raw we, I'm talking about everybody. Me, my shift mates, the other shifts, and the management, we was all taking things for granted, and it lined up. Like the miscommunication, when you cover 13 acres and there's only 5 of you, walkie-talkies are the choice of communication. But they don't always work. You have black spots, you put it in the shift log, that you're having a problem, an engineer comes out, fits a bigger and better amplifier, but you still have black spots. So during your 12-hour shift, you know that actually you may have to repeat yourself 3-4 times, or actually go and find the nearest office to talk to each other on the phone. Then there's the lack of procedures. We had nothing really written down. We evolve stuff. Something goes wrong, you fix it, you tell everybody else, they tweak it to suit themselves. Then there's the lack of leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I'm not talking about those in the ivory towers. I'm talking about everybody in an organisation. For us, doing a 12-hour shift, because it's a 24-hour operation, you have a bad day, and most of the times, you nurse it through. Your mate comes in and you say, sorry, Maddie, your problem now. All right, I'm going home. Where he will do it. But then it gets too bad that actually you do call a little bit of leadership amongst yourself and say, no, that's it. We're going to shut it. We're going to sort her out. But actually it's down here. Let's go further up the food chain. As I say, we was expected to write shift logs. Anyway, them lovely people from the HSE came in, took 6 months worth of logbooks out and read that there was a pattern developing, that every time we run said kit, we'd have blockage. So they asked the management, what did you do? And the management said, well, yeah, obviously we've taken it on board. We've spoken to all the manufacturers that's made this bill of kit, and it's been a bit Teflon. No one will take responsibility. And anyway, we bought the bit of kit because we was told it would never block. That's leadership, ladies and gents, all the way through. Then there's the overconfidence in trust. When you work with people day in, day out, you know what they're good at, what they're not so good at. So everybody goes to their strongest points. That particular day, John, who was in the switchgear room, who was our safety rep, got it wrong. He just heard, shut down, start up. He missed the important bit of pulse checking the crossover point. And then finally, complacency. We had all got complacent round the bits of kit because you play with them day in, day out. As I say, you learn the quirks, you learn the noises they all make. But ladies and gents, you cannot see complacency, but you can feel it. And it feels a little bit like this. I'm going to take you back to your very first day of work, whether we're your organisation now or somewhere else. And as you approach the gate, you had two things going on. One up here and one down here. Let's deal with this one first. As you approach the gate, this little voice, that little nagging voice is going, you should have gone down the road, I was paying more, it looks better. And you tell yourself, shut up. And you walk through the gate, you meet some fantastic people and whatever, and that little voice goes, oh, actually, you was right. And it disappears. Now let's deal down here. As you approach the gate, this is going on. 10 to the dozen. You get through the gate, you see where you're going to work, and God help us, it's going even faster. Anyway, you stick it out, and over time, probably within the year, this has gone. It's flown. When them butterflies have gone, that's when the trouble starts, because a fuse is lit. For 99% of the population, the fuse is that long, you will never see it burn out. But for that little 1%, the fuse is short, it goes bang, and they're marked for the rest of their lives. How you get the butterflies back, ladies and gents, I haven't got the answer, but you have. Somewhere inside you, you've got the answer to get butterflies back for everybody on your organisation. Because you know what? They are a great feeling. They keep people on their toes. They keep them aware of their surroundings. They potentially get them home every day. This is Captain Hindsight with his sidekick shoulda, coulda and woulda. You haven't got to tell me nearly 17 years on, what I should have done that day. I know I should have walked the 2 flights of stairs, the 100 yards down the machine floor, and put my lock on. But it didn't. Because, do you know what? We had all became a sheep. And let's put it this way. I even had that conversation 2 weeks after my accident when my shift mates come and see me, and we're having the laugh and the joke, and I said, guys, I need to say this. I've had time to think. It was going to bite one of us, and it bit me. And you could see in their eyes of, yeah, thank Christ it's you and not me. But hindsight is a beautiful thing, gents and ladies. Don't get me wrong, because it does make us an expert after the event. The more beautiful thing, foresight. Actually having the courage to have the conversations. Actually having the courage not to poo-poo stuff. He's right. The more we poo-poo stuff, you know what? The more assumptions we make. This is a penalty shootout out in Thailand. And this is what happens. We make assumptions. The goalkeeper thinks that he's won the penalty shootout because the ball's gone. And being a former goalkeeper, it would be, oh shit. But the more we ignore stuff, the more assumptions we make. Everything's hunky-dory. But as I say, sometimes we need somebody to come in and give us that little bit of a shake outside the bowl to realise where we are. It's about spotting the opportunities. Now, this is going to throw a few hand grenades out. Good teamwork, good use of resources. Who agrees with me that it's good teamwork, good use of resources? Okay, I told you to throw an hand grenade in or two. Let me explain. The boss has told the guys that the ship's got to get out lunchtime. And unfortunately, the cherry picker that normally comes in to do the job is stuck on the M4. And could you do me a favour and get the job done? Well, they're obliging guys, you know. They like to please the boss. So they go, actually, boss, do you know what? There's a spare scaffolding plank over there. We can work it out. So, guy here is about 16 stone. So he needs 3 guys to, you know, balance him. So we've got 2 guys having a bromance and someone feeling a little bit left out. You can tell that because his hands is in the pockets and he's sulking. Anyway, they get the job done. The ship gets out at dinner time. The boss is happy because he saved 500 odd quid. And they're all happy because they've all had a pat on the back. So good teamwork, good use of resources. Rational or irrational? Let me dig deeper. Who has a phobia of these? I will blank it. You don't jump at fluff, do you? No. Is it all right to stay up or I will blank it? Okay. Duty of care and all that. At least you're not as bad as my good lady at home who will jump at fluff 20 yards away. And I keep explaining to her that she's irrational because, you know, she's 5'4", little Wincy Wincy is only an inch. Anyway. A couple of weeks ago, I'm tapping away, getting a presentation done and doing some work, and all of a sudden I hear a scream. Oh, here we go. I can hear her screaming at the dog that the dog's got to stay away from it. And I see her, and there she's like this. And I said, Lovey, this is getting beyond a joke now. You are really irrational. Christmas is coming. Do you know what? I'm going to buy you one of these phobia course days that at the end of the day, you allow little Wincy Wincy to climb all over you. That was red rag to a bull. And bless her, she's an Essex girl, and the finest language came out, and she said, irrational? I'll tell you what bloody irrational is. Do you remember the 25th of November 2000? And I went, ooh, vaguely. She said, you bloody well do, because you're a liar. Do you know what? You went to work, stuck your arm in an Archimedes screw that wasn't properly isolated, and nearly lost it. That's bloody irrational. Okay, my love, you've made your point. So let's go back to our friends. Rational or irrational? To us outside the goldfish bowl, it's irrational. Why would you do it? But they're in the goldfish bowl. It's purely rational. So when you next see somebody do something a little bit iffy, a little bit dodgy, to them, at that moment in time, it's rational. We've got to understand how people see the world and why they do things. One of my favourite subjects at school was history. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a history lesson. 2,500 years ago, there was a young man called Alex. He came from Macedonia. He was about 23 at the time, and he decided that he would have a little bit of a jolly around Persia, Afghanistan, and the northern part of India. Anyway, he loved it that much that he decided to conquer it, and he became known as Alexander the Great. And on his little tour, he said this. And 2,500 years on, it is still relevant, because it is the conduct of each that will affect us all at some point in time. My accident was 18 months in the making, from the moment somebody phoned up Sweden, told that bit of kit, to the moment it bit me. Any one of us could have went, no, let's think about it. But we didn't. But the thing is, ladies and gents, we're always very good at spotting the bad. What about the good? Because let's put it this way, 99% of the time we are brilliant at stuff. We don't praise people enough that they're wearing their PPE, they're working all the rules, etc., etc. So let me show you the good, the bad and the ugly. So what I say to people now is, just slow down. Because the more you slow down, the more cups of tea and coffee you can drink. And while people are drinking more cups of tea and coffee, the job is going out. And do you know what? They can dunk their favourite biscuits. Now, I'm doing a bit of a survey around the country to find out what the favourite biscuit is, which is... It's chocolate hobnob, yes. Most people tell me it's chocolate hobnob, but so anyway. So the next time you have a health and safety brief, treat the guys and girls to a biscuit. It's surprising how much buying you get for a health and safety meeting. But on a serious note, ladies and gents, we just got to get people just to slow down. Because when they slow down, the blinkers come off, production still gets out the door, delivery of the product is still made. What I've just shown you, from the first slide to now, is the fog of work. The fear, the obligation, and the guilt to get things done. The fear of, oh, if we've got to meet the targets. The obligation of, we've got to keep things running. And the guilt of, oh, what are they going to say if we don't meet target? We've got to start clearing the fog of work. We don't talk about legacy, ladies and gents, enough. And next year, between June and July, ladies, you are going to be going out on lovely days out, because there's this lovely thing called the World Cup. And you know what? Next year, we are going to win it. I tend to have this effect. But as I say, what a legacy the England football team has left us. But we don't talk about legacy enough, ladies and gents. We don't talk about what we want to be remembered for, not just at home, but at work as well. Because let's put it this way, ladies and gents, this is my legacy. One hell of a beautifully scarred arm. That goes from my armpit to my palm and all the way round. That's what I'm remembered for. So what do you want yourselves and your guys and girls to be remembered for. Not just at home, but as work as well. You've had a hard morning up till now. Some of you got up extremely early, so we could do with a bit of a power nap. What I would like to do at this point is just close your eyes and think of your loved ones, whoever they are, wherever they are. Nothing's going to happen apart from me have a little slurp. We may find out who a snorer is or two. But other than that, just close your eyes and think of your loved ones, whoever they are. I think that's enough, ladies and gents. Wakey, wakey. Whoever you thought of is personal to you. But let's put it this way. What I've just talked about is, or will be talking about, is the ripple effect. Because let's put it this way. The average amount of people, and this is the minimal amount of people affected by a major incident, is 44, and they're in 4 groups. The first group is family. As soon as they get that knock on the door or the phone call, their world collapses as the tsunami washes over them. While I laid on the floor for an hour and a half, I get bombarded about who my next of kin is. And I said, Nick, my wife at the time, daughter Georgia, me mum, and my sister. But please, don't phone Nick. I know she will panic. Phone mum. Because I knew that mum would be able to cope. Because let's put it this way, mums are the rock of the family. They keep everything together. Anyway, mum took the call. She said to Graham, give me 10 minutes. I've got to walk up the hill and I'll break the news. But family being family, they come round, they support people the best they can. So that's group number 1. Group number 2 are, let's put it politely, a bunch of weirdos, because they're our friends, but we love them dearly. They are a bit weird, but we forgive them. Some of them are really good. They will support the family the best they can. It's all right, you can skip it on a bit. As I say, some are really good. They will support the family. Some, they won't even talk to you ever again out of embarrassment. Oh, I don't want to really put my foot in it. Oh. But there are some who are like rabbits in a headlight. One of them was Neil. I've known him since I was 5. We grew up together. We went to school together. We even worked for the same company in different departments. And bless him, Neil never has that face-to-face conversation with me anymore because he talks to my arm. How you doing, mate? All right. Neil, I'm up here. Anyway, in the end, you try to make a sarcastic joke of, you know, it's not even going to talk to you, Neil. Yeah, I know. How you doing? The Arsenal done all right and all that. So now, it's a new drinking partner and I just make up the numbers. Then there's work. That fantastic morale you have goes just like that. Because people start pointing fingers. People start asking questions. Not of other people, but themselves. How did I miss it? Why did I miss it? I should have spoken and all this. And on top of that, you have that fantastic bunch of people from the HSC put you on the rack. Not physically, but mentally. Because they need to know the answers. And for us, it was the wrong bit of kit. The manufacturers would not take responsibility. We wasn't trained, and it just became customer practice. And then finally, the 4th group. the forgotten group, the emergency services who come onto site, do what they need to do, and then go to the next one. And repeat it until they go home. I even had a policeman from Asda's apparently knocking customers out of the way to get the ice to preserve my arm. But what I've learned 16 years on, this ripple just keeps on following, touching people I've never even met or ever will do, until my last breath. So that is the ripple effect, ladies and gents. Now, this is Cheryl, my good lady. I will get home this afternoon at some point and she will pick me up from the train station and we will have a kiss and a cuddle, and I'm sure she will whisper in my ear, "Oh, where's me flowers for picking you up again?" "Oh, sorry, lovey." And then she'll start ranting and raving. The dog's been playing up again, and it's always my dog when he plays up. He's not the family dog, he's my dog. Anyway, but we'll talk about our day. Just like yourselves, just like your guys and girls at their work. They've gone to work and somebody's expecting you and them home. It hurts me to think that actually I went to work that Saturday morning with Nick and Georgia asleep. But they knew that I would be home around about 7:30 at night. Nick knew that it was Saturday night, so Saturday night is takeaway night for most families up and down the country. And I'd walk in the door, we'd have a kiss and a cuddle, and she would whisper in my ear, "What we got?" And I'd go, "Surprise, but don't eat all the pork balls. Where's Litland?" And she'd go, "Well, where do you think Litland is?" I won't put it in any order, but Jimmy Jams, Teletubbies, sofa. Yeah. That's where I knew Litland would be, watching the Teletubbies in her Jimmy Jams ready for Dad to put her to bed. Ladies and gents, it's not just about getting people to work safe for yourselves and each other. It's about getting people to work safe for their families, because they are the ones who pick the pieces up. Not us while we're in hospital being pampered by all the nurses, but them. Because world keeps on turning. Because now is to get people to do it, ladies and gents. I will openly admit to you that I have been a plonker. I should have spoke up. I should have done things differently. And I paid the price. But luckily, I'm here to tell the tale. And the last thing I want to do is hear about anybody else in my shoes. So please, yourselves and your guys and girls back in your places, please get them to use that time wisely in their hands to make sure that everybody goes home in one piece. And with that, I'll rest my case. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. No, thank you. You make it. No. Due to technical issues, we missed out a slide. So I'd like a volunteer. My friend, you are the closest. Come and join me. Give him a round of applause for volunteering. Would you like to promote your business? Because this is all about whatever.
Yeah, I work in a consultancy role for a leisure and tourism business, Quality Leisure Management.
Right.
Based in Cheltenham.
Brilliant. If you can beat my friend, yeah, you will get lots of business because they will have to buy business from you. Also, to sweeten the deal, do you like chocolate?
Yeah.
There's a chocolate bar. And everybody who comes to the next meeting when you come will go, "We are not worthy." If not, it's just humiliation, but at least you've got the chocolate bar.
Fair enough.
And you've had a free promotion. So what I would like you to do is sit on one of your hands, undo one of your shoelaces. Right, are you comfortable? Yeah. Right, the rules are you can't get anybody else to help, but you can use your other foot and you can use your mouth. Okay. Or any other part of your body that you feel that you can do this. But just remember, you're going out on the web, so keep it decent.
All right.
So, What I'd like you to do, ladies and gents, is obviously cheer, boo, do whatever, or talk amongst yourselves, swap a few network cards, because it's a good networking event. And are you ready, my friend?
Yes.
Don't look at the screen, concentrate on your job, my friend. And off you go. Go on. Tie the shoelace up. Obviously, you're quite boring. You're supposed to be cheering him on or swapping network cards. Come on, my friend. You can do it. What time are you finishing today? Well, obviously, if you run a consultancy, you work for yourself, you can go all day long. Everybody else, we've got overtime coming. Now. How are we doing, my friend?
Not very well.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen worse. You can give up, my friend. You can, but I think that's worth a round of applause. Just remember, consultancy, what travel and
Leisure and tourism.
yeah. So yeah, there are, my friend.
Thank you, Paul.
Round of applause again. It's the little things in life, ladies and gents, that we take for granted that have the biggest impacts. So that was the missing slide. If you've got any questions, comments, please feel free. That's why I'm here.
Did you clear the profit?
I left that to Dave because obviously I was predisposed. That's a good one. I like that one.
What happened afterwards with regards to the actual bit of machinery? Did they make changes to it?
What I understand was they fitted Cascale interlocking keys on it, they fitted maglocks on the hatches and plastered load of mandatory notices over it. So we was able to isolate it locally, but so yeah, so that's what happened afterwards. And 2008 it got ripped out and it's somewhere in China being melted as whatever.
What was the legal outcome?
The company was fined £16,000, but we are talking 2000. They was fined £1,200 in costs. I was at the Food and Drinks conference last year where they done a mock trial, similar sort of circumstances, and what I understand was the company was fined 1.6 million with £45,000 costs. So there's a huge jump. And I was told back when they sorted everything out, actually the hidden cost was £1 million. We don't talk, we see fines, but we don't talk about the hidden costs. And the other hidden cost is the bad PR that people get. Because let's put it this way, I was front page news locally for a month and it did rumble into the nationals and it was a 2-year story thing. But let's put it this way, ladies and gents, we now have this little thing. It's apparently called a phone, actually, it's a mini computer, and let's put it this way, people take pictures. People put it on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and let's put it this way, it goes viral. So yes, we talk money, but actually, what about reputation? Because let's put it, I always say to people, how many people see the front page news, somebody was applying for the job, and they're better off to turn around and say, you ain't going up that bloody mill, have you seen this? This lad's had his arm ripped off, I ain't having that. So not only do we get bad PR, we've got the money, but also we lose potentially good employees. So that's, you know, even though it was 16,000, and I did say at the time it was a drop in the ocean, but now I've stepped back and I can see the bigger picture. Yeah, it's only the tip of the iceberg.